Hello there everybody, this is Speckblocklime here with another video reaction for all of you today. And the video we're doing today is from the channel MrBallen, and it's titled Ghost Attack Caught on Camera, the San Pedro Haunting. So we'll see. I think usually some channels I might have seen something before. If they're talking about a topic that most people have talked about, there's a chance I might have seen something about this, but I'm not 100% sure. But either way, let's get onto the video and see what Mr. Dolan's gonna say. Maybe be something interesting and new or not. Here we go.
What's going on, guys? MrBallen here. Earlier I had been saying you probably know me from TikTok, but the reality is the majority of people that are watching this video or who have watched my other videos are actually just from YouTube, which is really cool to feel like YouTube is promoting some of my videos. I think I'm incredibly lucky to have that.
That's pretty cool.
I'm incredibly lucky to have this page growing as quickly as it is, and I'm incredibly lucky to have you paying attention, even if it's just for a few minutes. So thank you for tuning in. A little bit about me. I am a former Navy SEAL. I got medically retired at the end of 2017. I initially started making content that was pretty much exclusively about being a Navy SEAL and my experiences. But then when I got on TikTok at the end of 2019, early 2020, I kind of just completely pivoted and started sharing stories that I was just fundamentally
That's pretty interesting.
Scary stories.
So just in case I'm saying it quick, if anyone's gonna get annoyed, yes, it's a reaction channel and I might talk over some things.
I was very fortunate that it took
So you guys want to see the original, please go check out the original. If you don't want to hear me talking over it. So don't,
darker,
really you have to understand that reaction channel, that's what's gonna happen.
It's just something I'm passionate about, and I'm really happy that I'm starting to grow a platform that is based on that, because I would love to do this indefinitely. So today I'm going to be covering a very famous haunting, but before I get into any details about it, I want to be upfront with the people watching this video. This video and my channel in general are not designed to be, an attempt at convincing people that the paranormal is real or that ghosts are real. But rather, I want to cover stories that are just plain interesting. And I like covering things that are of the darker variety. True crime, certainly unsolved mysteries falls into that.
This is just the kind of channel this is.
Kind of dark, mysterious genre. And so this story really interests me because there's lots of photo evidence. There's multiple witnesses that kind of corroborate not necessarily that ghosts are real, but rather that the events that led to people. It's
something happened, pretty much.
There are people that corroborate the details, meaning the story is cohesive. That the actors in the story basically corroborate one another, and so it leads us down a path to getting to the end of the story, and we're like, well, what the hell happened? Because if it's not a haunting, what was it? Because a bunch of things happened that are pretty difficult to explain. So the too long didn't read version of this story is you have a single mom who moves into a home with her kids.
Let's get onto it.
And she starts hearing noises in the walls, in the attic. She can't make sense of it. She has friends and the babysitter that are at the house that also hear it. Her ex-husband starts to experience it. You have all these people experiencing these weird phenomena happening in the house. And then, through a weird series of events that involves priests, landlords, and child protective services, they have a paranormal investigator come over with camera equipment and all that. They come in the house and they end up documenting quite a bit of startling imagery and footage that only lends credibility to the fact that this actually might be a real haunting. So that's the story in a nutshell. Let's dive in. In 1989, a 23-year-old woman named Jackie Hernandez has just broken up with her husband, Al. It was an amicable separation. They just weren't on good terms. They decided it's time to get a divorce, but we will happily co-parent our two kids together. So it's an amicable breakup. Jackie moves into a small, modest home in San Pedro, California, with the kids. And she's working a ton. She's a student at night.
Busy mom.
Multiple jobs. It's a very hard, stressful time, but she's doing her best to support her family.
Newly divorced, hardworking mom.
A month after living in this house, Jackie comes home from a long day at school and work, and she sits down. Kids are asleep, and she puts on the TV. and she's just trying to decompress. And as she's sitting there, she starts to hear what sounds like little pebbles falling down inside of the walls. So she mutes the TV and she's listening, and it's just periodically little pebbles are falling down the wall. She goes up and she's listening, or with her ear against the wall, and she's thinking to herself, there's got to be, a mouse or some critter up in my attic, unfortunately, that's kicking some pebbles into a gap in the wall.
Oh, man.
And as she's listening, she thinks she hears what sounds like footsteps in the attic. And so it startles her. Now she's really paying close attention
Oh,
to
no.
the attic.
That would not sound
She
good.
doesn't hear it again. This is the first time she's heard anything like this, so she kind of did the very human sort of rationalizing what she had just heard and assumed she was just hearing things in the attic. It's just some critter. I'll deal with it later. So a couple of days later, Jackie has her friend Susan over to just hang out with her at her house. The kids are asleep.
Sorry, just checking.
Relaxing, talking, sitting on the couch. And as they're sitting there, they hear a loud bang in the kitchen. It sounded like something had fallen. And so, at this point, Jackie had mentioned to Susan this weird, like, hey, I think I got an animal up in the attic because I heard some rocks falling through the walls. But the funny thing is I could have sworn I heard footsteps up there, but probably just my mind playing tricks on me. So Susan is keyed in that maybe there's a little bit of weirdness happening.
It's a very normal thing people try to do to calm themselves.
Sound in the kitchen, it's like they both instantly go to, okay, what's happening here? Is this more to do with the footsteps in the attic, or is there a rational explanation? So they're on guard. They walk into the kitchen and they find a picture that was hanging on the wall that had fallen, which honestly that's not a cause for a ghost is in the house. But it was held up by a couple of nails. And the nails were removed from the picture frame and were standing on their head, point up, next to the image. Next to the picture.
What?
So imagine if a picture falls, are all the nails going to come out and land perfectly on their head right next to it? No, it's almost impossible. But sure enough, that happened. So Susan and Jackie are staring at the picture, they're staring at the nails, and they have no idea what to make of it. Susan was a little bit more eager to connect it to these footsteps in the attic, but she also did not want to frighten her friend because she knows she's living alone. And so they kind of talked a little bit
Okay, I
about
can see
it.
that, yeah.
Maybe they both wanted to have that discussion about what's happening in the house, but they both kind of decided, without saying anything, that we're going to kind of avoid this topic. And so they put the picture away, the nails away. Susan actually decides to just leave because she's a little bit freaked out, and so she's gone. The next night, Susan actually brings over a new babysitter. It's this 16-year-old girl named Tina. And so I guess, Jackie wanted a little bit of time to leave the house. She thought that she was kind of losing her mind with all the stress of work and school. And so Tina comes over.
Sorry about that, but every periodically I'm going to move it or find a way to check how much time I have left to make sure it's not effing up the time.
And she just like, you know what, I'm going to go just check on the kids. I got a weird feeling to make sure they're okay in their bedrooms. And as soon as she goes to push the door opens. Which she remembers in an interview saying it was strange that before it actually made contact with the door swung open. But, I didn't think anything of it. I walked in, the sun is just fine. So I walked back out and I shut the door. But as soon as I shut it, I turned around and it was starting to open again. And she describes thinking that, I guess, the house must be, not level or something. Jackie comes home and Tina tells her about the door. And I think that Tina on some level was hoping that Jackie, being the adult, would hear what she was saying and have just a totally rational explanation for what was going on. The door always does that, something like that. But Tina was shocked when she told her this, and Jackie reacted visibly like she was concerned. And Tina's like keying in on it, and she was like, do you know why this could happen? Why the door would be kind of opening on its own? And Jackie just said, honestly, there's been a couple of weird things that have happened. And so they talked about it a little bit, but ultimately, they both just decided, you know what, I think that we're connecting things that don't need to be connected. It's just a couple of strange occurrences. So Tina leaves, Jackie goes to bed, and they don't think about it. So the next day, Jackie has Tina come back over because she needs some more help with the kids. And so as they're standing in the kitchen, Jackie's describing to Tina what she needs to do that night, when to feed the kids, what time to put them to bed. Tina just kind of stops paying attention to Jackie and looks up at the corner of the kitchen. And so in the back corner of the kitchen, Tina's looking and she says, "Did you put in a new light in the corner of your kitchen?" And Jackie looks too, and she's like, whoa, what is that? And it looks like there's this like light bulb, kind of a weird looking light bulb in the
All right.
corner of the kitchen on the ceiling, which there wasn't a light bulb over there, and Jackie says as much, and they're looking at it, and then it begins to move. Not towards them, just it was like just kind of moving
Just moving.
around.
Just the general idea of it
Orb of
moving
light that was kind of moving around.
seems
And now,
not right.
had Jackie and Tina relayed that particular experience, almost everybody or virtually everyone would be like, yeah, okay, you saw a floating light in your kitchen. Well, they took a picture of it because it didn't go away. So they went and got a camera and they took this picture. And so you can see there's like this blob of light, that was in their kitchen.
I mean, that's terrible though, that the quality of the photo.
With the nails standing on their head, with Tina saying the door wouldn't shut, and now this orb of light. Now, Jackie has officially kind of gone from I'm going to play this rational and not worry about it to I have no idea what's wrong and I can't explain this. I can't tell people this without them thinking.
Ooh, so that's not great.
With the exception of Susan and Tina, because her kids were too young to know what was going on. There's no one that she felt comfortable sharing her anxieties and fear about what was happening, because how do you, a skeptical, rational person, go to for example, the police and say, hey, there's nothing in my attic, but I believe there's someone walking around my attic and kicking pebbles into my walls and knocking pictures off the wall and taking the nails out, standing them on the head.
Yeah, there's so many coincidences and strange things happening. It seems hard to believe that's just coincidences so all the way.
Finally felt comfortable telling was her ex-husband, because they were still amicable.
Okay, that's good.
Al come over and she finally says to him, I have a lot of weird things happening. She showed him the picture of the lights in the kitchen. She describes everything that happened in the house. And Al would say that in a way he thought that this was just kind of an act to maybe draw attention to the fact that she was lonely and that she missed him. He wasn't sure if that's what it was, but he definitely was not ready to believe in anything she was saying. He just kind of
I can see that a little bit. I mean, it's your ex. Some sense.
He says, look, kind of almost playing along with her. He's like, let's just call it out. If there's something happening in your house, we should call it out. And so he stands up and she's saying, no, don't do that, don't do that. And he goes, whoever's here, show yourself. And they're looking around, nothing. And I think in a way, Jackie was disappointed that there wasn't, footsteps in the attic right then and there, but there was nothing. And so Al kind of does there's nothing to worry about here, just stop worrying about it. And so he leaves, and, Jackie's disappointed but not shocked. And she goes to put something away in the closet. This is immediately after he's left. And she opens this closet, and inside the closet, on every wall, inside the closet, on the back of the door, was written Al. A in red and the L in blue. A-L, all over the wall. And that had not been there before. And what she believes was a response to the challenge by Al. So at this point, if she had money, she said she would have left. But she didn't. She didn't have the resources to move. And so she's just kind of trapped, and she's expressing her concerns, her anxiety to her friend Susan. And the two of them are actually out for a walk in their neighborhood, and she's telling Susan how scared she is and like, what do I even do? And it just so happens that the landlord, her landlord, Jackie's landlord, was walking down the street at the same time, and they bump into each other. They have some pleasantries, and Susan, just kind of without even asking Jackie's permission, says to the landlord, hey, there's some weird stuff happening in our house. She doesn't want to tell anyone because she thinks people will think she's crazy. And so they go into describing to the landlord all the strange happenings in the house, the lights that they got a picture of, the pebbles, the footsteps, all of it. And the landlord is very religious and is very concerned and says, would you allow me to have 2 priests come to your house and check your house out? And Jackie is a religious person, but to be honest, was a little skeptical at the idea of introducing religion to what was going on.
I guess I can see that.
She just wanted it to go.
Even people that are somewhat religious have their limits in some senses.
Like, okay, we'll have the priest come over and check it out. So the next day, these 2 priests show up to her house, and Jackie's house was very much in disarray. She had 2 young kids. She was working multiple jobs, doing school late, and she had all this weirdness happening in her house. And so when they showed up, her house was a total mess. Her kids are crying. It's just, it's a madhouse. And ultimately, what happened from this visit is the priest walked around, offered to bless her children, but really they didn't have any sort of like conclusion. And
Uh-huh.
then they leave, and Jackie was like, "Well, that doesn't
Oh
really
man, they
mean
couldn't figure
anything."
out
Okay.
anything at that moment.
The next day, she gets a visit from Child Protective Services
Oh
because
no.
the priest had actually filed a complaint saying that this was all a hallucination by an incompetent mother. This notion that the
Hmm.
house was haunted, combined with when they showed up, the house was a total mess. They just said, "I don't think the kids are safe," and so Child Protective Services gets called, who basically threatened Jackie to like clean it up, literally clean up your house, but like we're going to be checking in on you to make sure
Oh
you're a fit
no.
mother. And so this is a huge blow because now Jackie is seeing what happens when you bring up that your house is haunted, right? That this is what can happen. And so now she is not prepared to share this with anybody. So over the next couple of weeks,
Right?
Jackie brings her kids into the living room and they all start sleeping in the same room. She's increasingly paranoid. She's overworked and she's not sleeping enough and she's just kind of really spiraling. And Susan, who's her friend, is really taking a notice, is noticing this. And she also knows the sensitivity of being able to really share this with authorities
Yeah, it's
because
kind of
she
hard to
knows what the
show
Child
certain
Protective
things to
Service is
people,
called,
and it's kind of
and
hard to
she
make them
knows
at
that
least
Jackie is
understand what
really
it could be.
afraid to share the story with anyone. But she goes over and she tells her, "You have to call a paranormal investigator. It is probably the only group of people that if you reach out to them with this story, they're not going to treat you like they're crazy. And if nothing else, that is a reason to call them. Even if what they provide is worthless to you, that it doesn't accomplish
I
anything,
guess
they're at least a group of people that are going to
it could
take you
show.
seriously." And
Yeah, I guess
so
a group that's shown to
finally,
see they
Jackie
actually try. I
decides,
guess.
okay, let's do it. So a couple days go by, and this team shows up at their house, this paranormal investigator team. They have cameras and recorders. I mean, they are in it to try to capture footage. And even though they were ready to listen to Jackie and had obviously taken her seriously enough that they had shown up at her house,
Mm-hmm.
they were fairly skeptical. They, by their own admission afterwards, after this whole case had happened, they had said that they had covered over 3,000 cases prior to this and brought their recording equipment and all that, had never once found anything usable that would even hint at the existence of ghosts or the paranormal. And so you could say
Ooh.
that they were sympathetic to people that had these experiences, but usually either there was nothing going on or they found a rational explanation for whatever
All
the
right.
person was claiming to happen. They didn't
At least
have
they're
any
trying to tell
paranormal.
somewhat of the
So
truth
they're interviewing Jackie on
about their
camera,
work.
the three investigators that are there. They're kind of asking her some questions about what's going on and filming it. And Jackie had actually invited her ex-husband Al to be there with the kids, so he's in the other room with the kids,
All right.
and they're interviewing her. And then the power goes out, which it sounds pretty cliche, and I get that, but the power goes off, and then the power comes back on, and it visibly shakes Jackie. She had been living in this house with all these weird occurrences, and it was like she had this feeling that something bad was
Yeah,
coming
so
up.
many
And
things
so
just affecting
she
her.
starts acting really, really scared.
Oh
And
no.
she says, I'm telling you, there's something going on with the attic. And so they kind of stop the interview, and they're like, all right, let's just go have a look at the attic. We'll go look. There won't be anything there. We'll come back down and we'll chat with her some more. And so one of the three investigators gets a ladder and crawls through this little crawl space into the attic. And so he goes up. And so
All
while
right.
he's doing that, Al, who's in the other room with the kids, he's wide awake, laying with his son. He's just like waiting. He's not really expecting anything to happen. And as he's laying there, he could have sworn he heard someone whisper in his ear, "Tell them to get the hell out of here." And he has an interview he does where he describes this moment, and you can tell that Al is as skeptical as they come, and he's like, I
Yeah.
just don't know how to explain it. I heard it clear as day, and right after I heard it, I heard a scream from the attic.
Oh.
The photographer who had gone up into the attic, he was alone up there, and he had brought his expensive camera, and he comes running downstairs or jumps through the hole and practically falls out of the attic, and he tells them, something grabbed my camera. There's no one up there, but something grabbed my camera.
Okay.
His heart's racing, his face is
Damn.
pale, and the other investigators, they're starting to feel like, what's going on? Al comes bursting out of the room and he's like, what's going on? And the photographer's like, my camera. And he goes from being scared of what happened to now being like, that's my livelihood. I need to get that camera back. So he goes back up into the attic to retrieve his camera, and he finds the body of the camera in a crate in one side of the attic. And then the lens of the camera had been removed and placed on the other side of the attic. He comes down with his camera, and you can tell that what he's just discovered is really shaken him up, and the other investigators are also very shaken up. And whatever they planned to do that night, whether it was finishing the interview with Jackie or whatever, has now gone out the window. They're ready to leave. Jackie is pleading with them to stay. Al's freaked out. No one knows what's happening. And the investor's like, yep, we're good. We'll be back soon, I promise. But really, they're just like, let's get out of here. And they bolt. After they leave, Al sticks around for a little bit longer, but ultimately has to go back because he has to work early the next day. And so Jackie is left all alone with the kids. She is totally freaked out. It feels like the investigators had upset the entity in the house. And so she's pretty much on edge for something bad to happen. And it does. So that night, Jackie is laying on the sofa. She's in full crisis mode. She has no idea what's going on in her house. Watching the investigators who are supposed to be investigating this stuff be obviously spooked and leave really unsettled her. She felt like she didn't have any support from Al. She just felt like the whole situation had just completely fallen apart, and she's so scared for her kids. And she's laying on the sofa, and at some point she must have passed out. And then she wakes up suddenly, and she looks at the foot of her sofa, and she believes she sees what appears to be the figure of an old man standing there looking at her kids. She screams, it vanishes, she grabs her kids, and she runs out of the house. The first people she calls is the investigators, because again, she's worried about telling the police in fear that they would think it was her being crazy and have her kids taken from her. That's the investigators, and they don't pick up, but she leaves a voicemail, and on the voicemail, she's completely desperate. She's like, please come back. I am out of the house. I can't go back in. I don't know what to do. Like, I can't go back in. Please help me. And one of the photographers who was there heard the voicemail and decides, you know what? We got to go back. It's super late at night. They find Jackie outside of her property in pajamas with her kids. Or
at least they consider that's something good.
They bring her inside, and the house is totally calm. There's no sign of anything going on. And so they're kind of walking around the house. No one goes in the attic, but they're just walking around, and it's silent. It's calm. And after a little bit of time, maybe because it was so calm in the house, they decide, you know what, just because, let's go back up into the attic and just, for sanity, let's just take some pictures and video and see what's up there. So two of the investigators go up into the attic. One has a flashlight and a camera, and then the other just has his camera. And so they go up there, and Jackie and the third investigator are kind of anxiously standing at the foot of the attic looking up. And the guys who are up in the attic walking around, they're reporting down to them, we don't see anything, we don't hear anything, it's quiet up here, but like the tension is building, right? And they stop at some point, the two in the attic, and it's just like silence. And all of them reported hearing a snap, and then another snap, and then a third snap, and then silence. And Jackie begins having this overwhelming sense of dread. The guys in the attic are trying to stay calm. They're like kind of trying to talk. Oh, that could have been the roof. Oh, it could have been this. But the investigator who's down below with Jackie and Jackie herself, they start kind of panicking. They're like, hey, come on, come back down. Let's not risk it. Something's about to happen. Come back down. So as they're making their way back over to the exit of the attic, and it's totally pitch black up there, minus whatever light source they had, all of a sudden, one of the investigators just gets yanked backwards into the attic. And it was actually the guy holding the flashlight. And so they hear like a tumbling of the flashlight, a tumbling of the camera, and silence from this other investigator. The other investigator who's up in the attic with him that was not yanked back, he turns around and the guy's gone. And that guy, who has not been yanked suddenly, all he has is this camera. The other guy had the flashlight. So he instinctively starts clicking pictures with his camera to use the flash. Jackie and the guy on the ground, they're screaming, what's going on, and he's just clicking pictures, not looking in the viewfinder, just flashing. And he sees one of the investigator has been hoisted up into the rafters of the attic, and he's been tied to a post, and they have a picture of it. And so they run over, the investigator who's up there with him, he runs over, he unties him, pulls him down, and that guy's, totally freaked out. He doesn't know how he got up there. They collect their stuff and they practically fall out of the attic, and it's just pure mayhem because the guy he's freaked out, he's ashen faced, he's got these marks on his neck like something was holding onto his neck, and they run out of the house, never to go back in. Jackie says that she's not experienced anything paranormal since this instance and swears that this was not a hoax, that in fact this is one of the lowest points of her life, and it made her look like an incompetent mother.
So does she still live there? That's what it sounds like.
Crazy. And for her, this was just a traumatic experience that she has no explanation for. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. If there's a better explanation than ghosts, let me know in the comments. And,
at least that's what it sounds like, but who knows?
Be sure to like and subscribe if you've not already. Also, you can check me out on Instagram. My handle's JohnBallen416, and then on TikTok, it's MrBallen as well. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Oh, that was an interesting one. What can I really add? I don't know. That's not really much. I think it's easier to make comments during the video than after about this kind of story. It's just interesting. Who knows what it could have been? Who knows what was happening? But it sounds like she still lives there. But now things don't happen. I don't know. It sounds like it. But like I said, I'm not gonna make speculations because I don't know the story. But it was an interesting story. I just hope everything worked out though, and hopefully no bad things happen. And just crazy. But anyway, that was that video. It was an interesting one. It's from MrBallen. So hopefully you go check out this video on their channel and check a whole bunch of videos. Give them all those views, please. There's a whole bevy. How do you say that word? Oh, but just a whole bunch of scrolls of videos over there. And hopefully you like them, come here and give us a little bit of a view. That'd be great. Put a link down below. This is Speckblocklime. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you get notified about future videos. I'll put links down below to other channels and other things we're working on. And other social media. Hopefully, I don't name it directly because I'm not sure which ones I'm going to have down there. But by now, hopefully I have at least one or two. And links to some other stuff that you want to check out. Hopefully you guys take care. Hopefully you guys are having an okay time, and hopefully you guys aren't going through some hard stuff right now. See you guys next time.